The Flash is one of the most enduring superheroes in all of comics. Among the different characters who have carried the title, they've all been defined by fast, frenetic action and great storytelling. Well, what if I told you that we almost got a Flash movie in the late 2000s that embodied everything that made the character great, that would have starred Ryan Reynolds as Wally West trying to live up to the legacy of Barry Allen, written and directed by one of the key minds behind the Dark Knight trilogy? Well, that's the movie we'll be discussing today, as we break down the development, plot, and cancellation of David S. Goyer's The Flash. The year was 2004. David S. Goyer was coming fresh off of writing, directing, and producing Blade Trinity and writing Batman Begins. Warner Brothers was very impressed with his work on Batman's reboot, and told him that they had two other properties that they wanted to bring to the big screen next: Green Lantern and The Flash. Goyer chose The Flash due to his extreme fondness of the hero and feeling that the character had massive, untapped big screen potential. News broke that Goyer was set to write, direct, and produce the project on December 16th of that year. The next day, news would break of who would possibly headline the movie. While promoting Blade Trinity in Australia with one of the film's stars, Ryan Reynolds, when asked who he was looking at to cast in the title role, Goyer cheekily responded that he was looking at casting some guy named Ryan. Goyer also revealed that he was very interested in focusing the movie around Wally West, the at the time main Flash in the DC Comics universe, as opposed to one of his two comic book predecessors, Barry Allen or Jay Garrick. In the following months, Reynolds would officially confirm that he had met with Goyer, who was hard at work on the film's script, and that if Warner Brothers decided to officially greenlight the film, he would be playing the title role. In writing his script, Goyer would draw inspiration from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, intending the story to have a lighter tone than his previous fare. He would submit his finished screenplay to Warner Brothers in October of 2006. But after that, things would unravel in nearly a Flash. But before we delve into how exactly The Flash fell apart, let's take a deep dive into the film's plot. Our story begins 12 years ago. A teenaged Wally West vandalizes an under-construction housing development overlooking Keystone City. Wally has been living with his aunt and uncle, Iris West and Barry Allen, over the summer ever since his parents' messy divorce. Barry and Iris could never have kids, so they've been thrilled to have Wally around, even if he could be a bit of a handful sometimes. Upon being caught by officers Shire and Murillo and taken home, Barry reprimands Wally, but it quickly turns into a heart-to-heart conversation, and it's clear from this interaction that Wally's uncle is his hero. But the moment is short-lived as Barry receives a phone call from work. They're finally going to catch Victor Vesp. Iris protests her husband running off, but Barry cockily tells her that he could handle this as he kisses her goodbye. Barry heads to the crime scene, but little does he know, Wally has stowed away in his back seat. Barry arrives at Vesp's estate, which is surrounded by cops and the SWAT team, and is debriefed by his best friend, Hunter Zolomon. But something doesn't seem right to Barry. Catching Vesp like this seems way too easy. But the thought is short-lived because time is of the essence. Shire is about to launch a raid on the estate any second. So Barry slips away, touches a lightning bolt ring on his hand, and is transformed into the Flash. The Scarlet Speedster races through the chateau as Hunter updates him from the outside, letting him know that Shire and his team have mobilized. Flash eventually finds himself in an underground lab, face to face with Vesp, who's found and captured Wally. He tries to rush to his nephew, but he's been caught in a powerful magnetic field, leaving him floating above the ground, unable to run. Vesp mocks our hero, remarking that it was simple to piece together his identity. A forensic investigator caught in an electrical storm explosion and bathed in chemicals, but recovered without incident right around the time that the Flash emerged? The Flash's identity was obvious to Vesp. He unmasks Barry to Wally's total shock. Vesp believes that Barry's accident opened a conduit within him to extra-dimensional energy and that energy can be channeled. Vesp wants Barry's speed. The chamber begins to draw power from Barry like a battery, and as he begins to turn into a being of pure energy, Hunter enters the chamber. Wally stomps on the foot of Vesp's lackey. He drops his weapon and Wally flings it towards Barry and Vesp. The weapon explodes on impact and Barry discharges lightning. And for a split second, time freezes for Wally, and he thinks he sees a second ghostly Barry surveying the scene. But before he could process this, time snaps back to normal. Vesp catches a stray bolt of lightning, leaving him stuck in a slow-motion seizure. The chamber begins to collapse, and Hunter saves Wally from a falling metal beam, before the Flash reaches critical mass, going nova, and enveloping Wally in lightning. In present day, we find Wally West. Easygoing, charming, and still getting into trouble. After getting dumped, meeting the girl's new boyfriend, and picking a fight with him, all in under 5 minutes, Wally finds himself getting bailed out of jail by Hunter, who's now wheelchair-bound as a result of saving Wally's life. He returns to Iris's house, and she's frustrated, feeling like her nephew is stalling, doing nothing with his life. And she's right. Wally has been running in circles since the night Barry was taken, never committing to anything so he could never fail and never let Barry down. That night, Wally does some soul-searching and visits a monument to the Flash, erected where Vesp's estate once stood. He hears a ghostly voice call his name, before getting struck by lightning. He wakes up in the hospital where he experiences time slow down and seemingly stop, before quickly returning to normal. Meanwhile, in Iron Heights Penitentiary, Victor Vesp has been ravaged by time and circumstance. Ever since his slow-motion seizure, his metabolism and ability to move have been slowed to an unnatural rate, leaving him known as the Turtle. But his mind is as fast as ever, allowing him to craft meticulous plans. He reads a news story of Wally getting struck by lightning, secretly poisons an inmate who threatened him, and is visited by his loyal henchman, Edmund Slow, who he tells to follow Wally and report back what he learns. The next day, Wally confides in Hunter that he's been having episodes where he feels out of sync with time, but Hunter tells him not to worry. Barry also experienced this when he first tapped into the Speed Force, and hypothesizes that Barry transferred his power to Wally when he went Nova, but it took the lightning strike to set those powers free. After, Wally is contacted by Dr. Jerry McGee, a big-shot scientist at Star Labs, who believes that they could figure out what's going on with his speed. At the lab, he's overseen by Dr. Otto Vigland, Jerry, and his ex-wife, Tina, who Wally is smitten with, and openly flirts with to Jerry's dismay. But Tina doesn't date patients, or younger men. During their first test, Wally speeds off 96 miles in 4 seconds, leaving about $60 million worth of property damage in his wake. Jerry and Tina find Wally out cold at the end of the path in a crater. Wally comes to 2 days later, and is quickly mobbed by news crews curious if he's the new Flash, and in that moment, Wally realizes why Barry kept his identity a secret. Hunter brings Wally to Barry's old cabin and reveals a secret lab underneath that he used to monitor the world when he was the Flash. He tells Wally that he thinks Barry intended to pass on not just his powers, but also his purpose. Wally is hesitant to take up the mantle. He doesn't think he could handle that responsibility. But Hunter tells him that he's been given a gift, the kind that most people would kill for. And Wally takes his uncle's ring, becoming the Flash. Wally immediately leverages his celebrity as the Flash for profit through brand deals and promotional stunts. He figures that he didn't ask to be the Flash, so he might as well benefit from it. Hunter is exasperated by this perversion of Barry's mission. When he told Wally to put on the costume, this definitely isn't what he had in mind. Later, Wally and Tina notice police and fire trucks rushing toward a crime, but Wally doesn't even try to go and save anybody, believing that being a hero is just a persona he plays, which infuriates Tina. At the West home, Iris is also frustrated that Wally is using the Flash for profit, and warns him to keep his ego in check, because his power is addictive. One day when doing an autograph signing at the mall, Wally gets a frantic phone call from Hunter. His flight has a stuck landing gear and they can't bring the plane down. Wally sees on a nearby newscast that the plane's crew will attempt to land in the river. He feels the crowd watching him, expecting him to act, and he knows he can't shirk this. The Flash shows up at Keystone Airport as the plane begins its descent. At the speed it's going, the river will have the consistency of concrete, so he has just one shot to save everybody. As the plane hits the water, he bolts across the tarmac and river, ferrying every person off the 737 as it collapses around him. The plane's final two passengers are Hunter, who made Wally promise to get him last, and a little girl. As he grabs them, he notices a stuffed turtle doll that the girl dropped. It's split open, with familiar-looking circuitry inside. The device ticks down its last hundredth of a second and explodes, engulfing both the Flash and Hunter. But Flash is ultimately able to get Hunter and the little girl off the plane and safely onto land before collapsing, vibrating rapidly. But Tina is eventually able to guide him back from this trance. Wally remarks that during that, he was somewhere else. He doesn't know where, but he thought he saw Barry. That night, Wally and Hunter link the bomb being inside of a stuffed turtle to Vesp. So Wally pays him a visit, and Vesp isn't at all intimidating, calmly telling him that this plane stunt was a test, and there will be others before he takes back what's rightfully his. The next day, Wally explains to Tina that he recognized what was inside of the turtle, an infinity transducer, the same technology that Vesp used to try and steal Barry's speed, and speculates that the plane was likely a bait and switch for him to try and steal the speed again. After this, Wally takes Tina on a run spanning the globe, showing her what he sees when he taps into the Speed Force. As he brings her back to Star Labs, she realizes that despite her protest, Wally has wormed his way into her heart, and they share a tender smooch. Meanwhile, Vesp is broken out of prison by a speedster who looks just like the Flash named Zoom, who's vibrating rapidly to conceal his identity. He takes Vesp to a new underground lair, where he's instructed to test Flash but keep him alive. As Zoom bolts off, Slow remarks that the speed has made Zoom unpredictable, and Vesp responds that that's the reason he didn't test the speed on himself. The next day, Wally is accused by the Keystone PD, Hunter, and Jerry of breaking Vesp out of prison, but Tina remarks that they were on a date when that happened, so it's impossible, which infuriates Jerry, causing him and Wally to nearly come to blows. But this is interrupted when an officer remarks that another incident happened. For the past few hours across the country, there have been tragedies every 5 minutes. Tina connects all the crime scenes on the map, reading out 5 words. Catch me if you can. The final attack is pinpointed to be happening in Pittsburgh in 1 minute. Flash rushes off to the Three Sisters Bridges, where he's attacked by Zoom, who's moving so fast that no normal person can see him. And even to Wally, it seems like he's teleporting. Just when Zoom is about to deliver his killing blow, he staggers back, shaking. His vibrations slow to the point that the pedestrians on the bridge see the two Flashes standing opposite, before this anti-Flash quickly retreats. Vesp actually built an override into Zoom's speed apparatus to take away any speed it gives him, and since he was about to end Wally's life, Vesp started to take his speed away. He needs Wally alive so he could learn how to manipulate the Speed Force. So a furious Zoom returns to Vesp, who uses the override to torture him and forces him to kiss his feet. Later, Shire apologizes to Wally for his accusations and reveals to him and Tina that Jerry visited Vesp the afternoon before he was broken out, and the evidence points to him being Zoom. Wally rockets to his house, only to find Jerry's lifeless body. At the same time, Zoom bursts into the lab and destroys it, taking Tina hostage. As the Flash returns, Shire tells him that only he could stop Zoom before he passes in the Flash's arms. Tina is taken to Vesp's lair, which is actually a secret basement beneath Star Labs. As it turns out, he's been anonymously funding Star this entire time and watching everything. Jerry figured this out a few days ago and was subsequently silenced. Vesp reveals that he wants to harness the Flash's power to cure his condition and create other speedsters that can do his bidding and usher in a new age led by him. But he needs Tina to fix the current flaw that comes from transferring speed harnessed from one person to another. It rapidly ages its host. The Flash tracks down Zoom, who's traded in his impersonation costume for a new suit, and chases him all through the city, ending with Zoom leading our hero to a dark underground lair. Flash unmasks the villain to reveal Hunter. As it turns out, Slow actually intercepted Hunter during one of Wally's promotional stunts and brought him to Vesp, who promised him that they could use the speed to let him walk again. And after 12 years of watching over Wally, screwing up over and over, only to be gifted with Barry's powers, he felt like he earned the opportunity. And after the plane ordeal, Hunter captured enough speed not just to walk, but run. The lights kick on in the chamber. It's very similar to the one that Barry was defeated in. The Flash sees a captured Tina and a giddy Vesp, before, like his uncle, getting caught in the chamber's magnet and going Nova himself. He wakes up in the Speed Force and quickly realizes that he's in the basement of Vesp's chateau 12 years ago, moments before Barry went Nova. As he takes in the scene, he learns that he's not alone, as he sees Barry begin to form composed of pure light. Meanwhile, Vesp gloats that the speed is finally his, but a battered hunter puts his mask back on and attacks his benefactor. His mind moves so fast now that he taught himself how to jam Vesp's override. He knocks out Slow and makes Vesp kiss his feet before promptly ending him. In the Speed Force, Barry explains that he's become part of this extra-dimensional energy. It was Barry calling Wally's name the night of the lightning strike. He explains that by combining their powers, they may have enough speed to send Wally back, but only Wally. Wally vows to Barry that he'll find a way to free him, and Barry tells his nephew in the meantime to tell Iris he loves her. Wally launches himself out of the Speed Force and back to present day to a destroyed lab. Zoom, who absorbed Wally's energy, has taken Tina. And just as the villain, now grotesquely distorted by the speed and psychotically broken, throws Tina off of a building, Flash appears and saves her. Flash and Zoom fight all across the globe as Tina runs support for our hero, telling him that Zoom is using so much speed that he will age up and pass away within a week. But if he gains any more speed, he'll be gone even faster. So Wally zips to a barren wasteland and charges up like he's about to rocket away. Zoom charges toward him, and just as he's about to make contact, the Flash discharges his lightning, surrendering speed to Zoom and causing him to disintegrate. Our story ends with Wally showing Tina Barry's lab and telling her that she makes him want to stop and, for the first time in his life, just be. They kiss as radio chatter alerts them to a hostage crisis in Chicago, and the Flash, Wally West, rockets away, the fastest man alive. This script is fantastic. It's such a neat idea to throw the audience into the world at the very end of Barry's run as the Flash to show the potential heights that Wally could achieve, not only as a hero, but as a person. I also adore how this story handles the conflict between Wally, the Turtle, and Zoom. Having all of them take action that also informs their character, which leaves their good versus evil triumvirate feeling really dynamic. So with this awesome script in place, that raises the question, why did it get canned? Shortly after Goyer turned in his script, Warner Brothers decided that they wanted to move in a different direction. News would break of the movie's demise in February of 2007, when Goyer would post on his MySpace page, "Well, I've been waiting a few months to relate this news, but I am sad to say that my version of The Flash is dead at WB. The God's honest truth is that WB and myself simply couldn't agree on what would make for a cool Flash film. I'm quite proud of the screenplay I turned in. I threw my heart into it, and I genuinely think it would have been the basis of a groundbreaking film. But as of now, the studio is heading off in a completely different direction. I expect you'll hear of some new developments on that front shortly." Just 3 days later, news would break that Shawn Levy, best known at the time for Night at the Museum and Cheaper by the Dozen, would be directing the film. It was believed that elements of Goyer's script would still be used in this incarnation of the movie, and Reynolds was seemingly still on board to play the character. It's rumored that Warner Brothers' change in direction on The Flash was to, in a sense, clear the table for their soon-to-be-announced Justice League film, Justice League Mortal. Announced less than a month after Warner Brothers split with Goyer on Flash and canceled a Joss Whedon Wonder Woman movie, Justice League was set to be a launchpad for individual character spin-offs, so the assumption was that any Flash movie would have to wait until after Justice League established the hero on the big screen first. As 2007 rolled on, Levy would exit the project and be replaced by Wedding Crashers' David Dobkin, who would go on to seemingly confirm this suspicion. It's designed to work as a spin-off from Justice League, so we're honoring the story and we're working in tandem with the storytelling. I think we'll just have to wait to see how the movie does and how it works off it, but it certainly would be a movie that comes after Justice League. But within a week of this statement, Reuters would report that the movie actually wasn't a spin-off of Justice League. Shortly after these comments were made, further complications such as the 2007 writer's strike and Dobkin and WB parting ways on the project resulted in no significant progress being made on the film, leading Warner Brothers to eventually start over on The Flash from scratch, rendering any trace of Goyer's influence null and void. And I think that's a shame, because Goyer's script truly had this X-Factor quality to it, where it would have been a perfect big screen introduction to the Wally West version of the character. Riding this perfect line between serious, funny, and sincere, this movie would have been truly excellent. In the end, I think it's really unfortunate that Goyer's Flash never made it to the big screen. But that's the story of David S. Goyer's The Flash, and the end of yet another episode of Canned Goods. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, be good to each other, and stay Hemmas.